And that's the problem, is when you stop trusting yourself, you start outsourcing your critical thinking. If you don't have common sense, just don't watch this video. The number one thing I realized that's holding most people back from six figures, and the difference I've realized between people who are at six figures and seven figures, is that they blame themselves for everything. So for example, whenever anything goes wrong, you automatically blame yourself. And this puts you at a major disadvantage, because I think a lot of times in the entrepreneurship world, you're taught take accountability to the point where you can't see clearly, because when you look at a situation, you're always blaming yourself, not necessarily the systems that you're in, or if someone did something wrong, right? So when you blame yourself, it actually allows other people to not take accountability, because you're doing too much. You're taking the blame for everything that goes wrong in all experiences. And the biggest difference between blaming yourself and accountability is you playing your part, and blaming yourself means 100% of what went wrong was completely on you. Accountability means that you're willing to take a role in understanding what went wrong on your side, but also understanding all the things went wrong. And I think this really stems from, if you came from a childhood where your parents never took the blame, or you were always told what to do and never really were taught to critically think about who was in the right, who was in the wrong. And also coming from a place of, if you have low self-esteem growing up, you're always blaming yourself because you're putting everyone else on a pedestal. Let me show you how this plays out. I was in many coaching programs, and if I wasn't getting results, instead of blaming the system or the process, I would constantly blame myself. I'm like, I'm not trying hard enough, I'm not working hard enough, I'm not doing enough. And that never let me see the real problem, because when you always blame yourself, you're never really thinking about what's out there. All the people that were involved in the formula, all the systems that were involved in the formula. For example, at one of my 9-to-5s, I was working really hard, and I had a manager that was also working really hard, but they were pinging me at 9 a.m. And coming from this place of always blaming myself first instead of looking at the system I was in, of course I was set up to fail, because not only was I blaming myself for not working as hard as my manager up until 2 a.m., but I also was not understanding the different types of pressure on all of us, me as an intern versus my manager. And that's the problem, is when you stop trusting yourself, you start outsourcing your critical thinking. And that's when things go really bad so quickly, because you stop trusting yourself and you start thinking everyone is smarter than you. But here's the thing, no one's lived your life. No one's lived 24 hours, 365 days a year in your life. So take advice with a grain of salt, right? Like, they don't know your specific circumstances. And honestly, you don't have the time to explain every single thing that has happened in your life to a stranger or someone giving you advice. That's why when you lack self-trust, you end up in this position of trusting other people over your own experiences, trusting other people's blanket statements over your own experiences. And ultimately, when you outsource your critical thinking skills, that's when you end up in the trap of everyone knows better than you. You don't trust yourself. And also the really dangerous experiment of, when you do finally get success, you contribute that success to other people outside of yourself. You're the only one that put in work. No one else was the one that was DMing their leads or getting on sales calls, right? The other people around you, your support system, helped you, but no one woke up in your body every day to take the amount of action that you're taking.